First
Four.
sipping,
Kara.
then talk.
Are you guys ready?
I don't know.
How do I look?
How are you feeling?
I'm
You
only
look
ready if
great.
I look good. Welcome to Coffee Talks. Today we're going to be talking about how Nick and I are going through the HubSpot Pipeline Generation Bootcamp by Dan Tyre. This bootcamp has been amazing. We are on week 8 now, and last week. And the idea of this bootcamp is to get people to lose the fear of calling potential customers, engaging with leads, and actually not cold calling anymore. Cold calling is dead, but actually doing it in a human way, helping people and creating more and more connections. So, Nick, why don't you share a couple of things that you've learned through the bootcamp?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost is the idea that cold calling is dead. So going into a prospecting pipeline type of boot camp for an inbound agency at first I think was a little questionable, and something that maybe wasn't in our skill set at the time. But really going through it, you realize that you're not just picking up the phone and calling somebody random. You're going through the necessary steps to make that call a warm call and really develop that trust.
And we were actually great. We were great at doing the inbound side of things. And when people call us because they need us, or when people find us on Google, or when people email us or go through our funnel, we were great at talking to people, creating meetings, going through exploratory calls. That process was great. But the whole idea of actually researching and finding your potential idea customers and deciding who you want to work with, and then going for that and engaging with those people at a different level and finding those opportunities of how you can help them, I think for me especially was eye-opening. I always had this whole thing about prospecting. This is my biggest fear, my biggest thing. And now it's so easy. So I think, why? How is it becoming easier?
I think one of the keys was going through some of the tactics and just those lines that you can use, and just different verbal tactics to make that initial outreach a little less awkward. And so not only the research and having that knowledge of the person and what they do, and having that behind you going into the conversation, but having the confidence to go in and be able to break the ice and make it not a cold call.
Why don't you talk a little bit about how you became an authority? I feel like that was the biggest thing for you. I've seen that transformation through the bootcamp, how you went from, yes, I know a lot of stuff, and yes, I'm good in sales, to actually speaking from an authority level, from you being the authority and knowing that you can actually help a lot of people.
Yeah, so like you said, I had some of the sales skills there. I was used to talking on the phone. I was used to selling and engaging with prospects in that sense. There was still a lot to be learned in the boot camp, and a lot of skills to be taken from that to add to my skill set. But really through the role playing, through the practice, and then through just getting on the phone and doing it, from shadowing calls with you and just having that language and over and over again, really gives you that opportunity to just practice it more. And the more you get on the phone, the more you do it, the more you learn, and the more you're able to just convey with that confidence what you're talking about, how you can help people, and how you can continue to help people should they want to work with you.
Yeah, and I feel like that was key for me, just doing it, just calling people and just, role playing. I have such a hard time because I'm such a real person. I can put a camera in front of me and I can talk for an hour, or bring me 100 people and I can speak about anything. But then the idea of picking up the phone and calling someone I don't know to try to sell them something, it was really a big deal for me. I don't know why, but it was always a big deal. But in this case, like you said, learning the skills you need. First of all, the research, understanding who you're calling to and what their needs are, and understanding why they might need your help, and then calling to offer your help. I feel like that is the biggest thing. We're not calling to sell you something. We're calling to help you. And that creates a completely different conversation, right?
You're calling to help, and you're calling quickly. These people aren't expecting your phone call a lot of the time. So a lot of times you're going into it, and at first you're thinking, oh, if I'm going to pick up the phone and call somebody, then there's going to be resistance, and they're not going to want to talk to me for 30 minutes and this and that. And you're really not trying to engage them for 30 minutes. You're trying to engage them for 5 to 10 minutes tops. And they're a lot more open to that. Once you have a strategy going into that, you know how to open the door and get what you need, talk to them, build that trust and get out and let them continue with their day becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, I also learned the whole, dropping the CEO line was, I never do it. I'm not like, hey, I'm Gabriel, CEO of Nextiny Mark. Like, I don't do this on a regular basis. It's on the signature for my emails on the website, but that's pretty much it. But this was important because, Dan Tyre was like, you are the CEO of a company and you're calling people. When someone is the CEO and says, hi, I'm Gabriel, CEO of Nextiny, people are like, hold on, the CEO of the company is calling me? Why? How? This is great. Like, the CEO is actually taking time to call me. So it was pretty interesting how, you called a couple of people and you got some connections, and then there was someone that was not responding, and then I call and say, hey, I'm the CEO, and this person was like, oh, great, like, tell me more. Yeah. And we had another level of conversation, and then you call them again, and there was this authority on top of it, and then in the end you schedule an exploratory call for a couple of weeks later. So I feel like that was pretty cool. What do you think it's going to be the biggest impact on our business, and also not only on us, but how can we help our customers? That we do a lot of sales enablement and we help a lot of salespeople. We train them on a day-to-day basis on the inbound methodology, on inbound sales. How do you think the impact is going to be for us and for them in the future after going through this bootcamp?
I think for us, we, like you said, I have the ability to speak as an authority on it now. So going through that bootcamp, practicing and working with you, it empowers our team to really step out there and not only talk about ourselves, but now talk about inbound methodology as a whole and how that can be incorporated in their business. And as a result, having that knowledge going into our current customers now, we'll be able to implement that.
Yeah, and it helps us get those two teams, the marketing and sales team, working together even more, because it's like I feel like we have a complete picture of what sales is all about. Not only on the, let's manage the leads and the CRM and the tools, but, we don't cold call. Let me give you some tools on how you can do warm calls and you can actually help people, and changing that mindset for sales teams. I think that's going to be huge. And then also, our own pipeline is starting to be filled up, and we have a lot more opportunities. Right?
I think as a result of going through the boot camp too, we will be much more able to apply some of the tactics that we started before with sales, like using video and sales, to prospecting, now that we have a much firmer grasp on prospecting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Nick.
No problem.
And by the way, we are lions! Rawr!